A Cat, a Hat, and a Piece of String. Written and read by Joanne Harris. Introduction. An interviewer once asked me this question. If you were to be stranded on a desert island, what 3 items would you take? I gave this frivolous answer: a cat, a hat, and a piece of string. Partly because I liked the jaunty, careless bounce of the phrase, and partly because each item has many potential uses, on its own or separately, which makes my choice more than the sum of its parts. I'd bring the cat for company, the hat for shelter from the sun. The piece of string has multiple purposes, including to amuse the cat or to keep the hat on in a high wind. There's also a scenario in which I use the hat and the piece of string to make a simple fish trap, presumably to feed the cat, or a less appealing one in which I strangle the cat with a piece of string and cook it for lunch, using the hat as a makeshift tureen. To be fair, I can't imagine myself ever wanting to eat a cat, but who knows what might happen if you were stranded for long enough on a desert island. It occurred to me that I could probably think up 100 similar stories featuring just those 3 items. The stories in this collection are a little like that too. Though seemingly unconnected at first, you'll find they are linked in all kinds of ways to each other and to my novels. Some take place in locations you may recognize. Others feature characters with whom you may be familiar. Some stand alone, for the present at least, which does not mean that they always will. Stories are often so much more than the sum of their individual parts. To me they exist like unfinished maps to as yet undiscovered worlds, waiting for someone to pencil in the connections as they find them. As I said in Jigs and Reels, short stories do not always come easily to me. Sometimes they drift like flotsam to the shores of that desert island. At other times I bring them home from my travels around the world, or sometimes they rattle inside my head for months and sometimes years on end, like coins trapped inside a vacuum cleaner, waiting for me to release them. In any case, I hope that these may take you a little further into that unexplored territory. Maybe you'll meet some old friends, as I hope you'll find some new ones. Don't forget your cat and your hat. And, with a long enough piece of string, you'll always be sure to find the way home. River Song. Stories are like Russian dolls. Open them up, and in each one you'll find another story. This particular story was written when I was in the Congo with Médecins Sans Frontières. Why I was there in the first place is a story in itself, but while I was in Brazzaville, I met a gang of small boys who had devised an ingenious and perilous means of earning a living. They would gather by the river under the veranda of one of the city's few surviving restaurants, and, for a coin or a handful of scraps, would entertain the diners by leaping into the rapids at the river's most dangerous point and riding the current downstream. These children, none of them older than 10 years old, would risk their lives dozens of times a day, often for nothing more than a chicken bone or a piece of bread. What's more, they seemed to enjoy it. Well, there's always the river. That's what Maman Jeanne says, with that look old people get when they're talking about something you can't possibly understand, like how an aeroplane stays in the air, or why the good Lord made the tsetse fly. It's her answer to everything. Complaints, questions, tears. Well, there's always the river, she says. The Congo River is always there. I should know. I've watched it all my life. I know its moods, like a fierce dog that will sometimes play, but goes for the throat if you take the game too far. I know the fishing spots and the best places to swim, the rapids and the shallows, the islets and the sands, and where they shot the last hippo years ago. To hear them talk, you'd think everyone in Brazzaville was there that day. If so, that old hippo should be right there in the Bible, next to the miracle of the fufu and the fishes. Still, says Maman Jeanne, fishermen and hunters are born to lie. Maybe it's the river makes them do it. It's true that stories collect here. Like the water hyacinth, they float downriver from the north, dividing and flowering as they go. The story of the 3 sorcerers, or the eagle boy, or the devil fish, so huge it can snap a hippo's spine or swallow a crocodile in a single gulp. That, at least, is true. I have a devilfish tooth to prove it, traded, for a cigarette and half a stick of chewing gum, from a boy on one of the barges. It's longer than my finger, and I wear it round my neck on a piece of wire.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?